All right, so for this game, we have a couple of things going on. Specifically, we have a bunch of people that we're going to be assigning to these positions, but on top of that, some of those people are just not going to be assigned at all. So effectively, that kind of creates an out as well. So we can set it up based on the positions across the top. So we basically have a slot for a mayor, the treasury, the councilors, and we're also going to have effectively an out. And we have the spacing. We're told that there's going to be just one person under the mayor, one person under the treasury. There's going to be two people under the councilors, and that leaves us with another two people who are going to be out. From there, the elements themselves, we have F, G, H, J, K, and L. So those are your 6 people to put into those slots. And I guess let's go into the rules. So the first rule says, if F is a nominee, then G cannot be a nominee. So essentially, I guess we can kind of say if we have F, then G is out. If G is in, then F is out. But really, you should be used to this as an exclusive relationship. What this basically means is that no matter what, one of G or F is going to have to be out. Now note, they could both be out, right? We don't have to actually have one of them in, but at least one of them is definitely going to be out. Next, if H is a nominee for counselor, then we're told that J will have to be the nominee for mayor. So I guess we can say if J is not the nominee for mayor, H certainly is not going to be the nominee for the counselor. Next, the nominee for treasurer must be either F or H. So I guess we can say that the treasury has to be either F or H. And we can even leave a placeholder here. One of F or H is definitely going to be the treasurer. And lastly, K cannot be the counselor. So I guess we can say K cannot be counselor. So there will not be any Ks in that position. Although that kind of raises the question of, if K can't be the counselor, what could happen to K? And there's actually not that many other options because the treasury is actually already taken by one of F or H. And we know that the only other slot is going to be either the mayor or out. So we can actually adapt this rule to kind of simplify this. Instead, we can basically say that K is going to have to either be the mayor or out. Now, outside of that, I guess we could kind of take this a few steps further. There is seemingly a bit of a relationship between this rule, the fact that the treasury is either F or H, and the fact that one of G or F is definitely going to have to be out. In fact, we could arguably exhaust this game based on that, just because it seems like there's a bit of interplay there. So we know that we only have 2 possibilities for this F or H. So we can kind of say, either this is going to be F in this position, or it's going to be H in this position. Now, it doesn't take us too far, to be fair, but we could say that in this scenario, if F is in the treasury, then G is going to have to be the one who happens to be out. Now, in the other scenario, though, if H is in the treasury, we still have to have one of F or G out, but it doesn't tell us much more than that, to be quite fair. In both of these cases, we know that if H was a counselor, then J would be the mayor, but then again, if H is not the counselor, it doesn't actually tell us what could happen or what has to happen, so that's also pretty open. K obviously still has to either be the mayor or out, but that's just as true as it's ever been, so it looks like we can't do much more. So from here, I guess we can jump into the questions. Now, before we do though, just remember, these 2 scenarios, again, the point of this is that they're not just 2 random possibilities, they're exhaustive sets. That means that no matter what happens in this game, it'll have to fit into one of those templates. They're pretty open templates, but one of those 2 will definitely have to still hold. So the questions themselves, as usual, we do the first question first, which in this case happens to be an exclusion question. So we do this by the rule. So the first rule was basically that we could not have F and G both in. So going through the answer choices, answer choice A, we have F and G, F as a mayor and counselor G, which means that doesn't work. We can disqualify answer choice A because F and G can't be there, both of them. Answer choice B looks good, C is fine, D is fine, and E is fine. The rest of them only have a 1 of F or G at most. Next, the second rule tells us that if H is a counselor, so we can look for cases of that. Answer choice B doesn't apply. Answer choice C, though, H is the counselor, but then J is the mayor, so we're good. Answer choice D, H is the counselor, but J is not the mayor, so we can get rid of answer choice D based on that. And E, H is not the counselor, so it doesn't apply. We can keep going. Next, the treasury has to be either F or H, so we just have B, C, and E remaining. B has H in the treasury, that's fine. C has G in the treasury, which is not fine. We can get rid of that one. And E has H in the treasury, that's fine. Lastly, we said effectively K has to be either the mayor or out. So answer choice B has, well, actually K is a council there, so that certainly doesn't work, which then leaves us with answer choice E as the only viable answer for question number 12. Next, actually, before we jump in, let's plug that into the board just in case it comes in handy. So we have, let's see, K is the mayor, then we have H is in the treasury, we have F and L as councillors, and I guess that leaves us with who? I guess G and J on the out. So the local questions. Question number 13 asks, if G is a nominee for councillor, well, first of all, if G is a nominee for the council, that means that we can't have F be there with him, so this is not going to work, right? Which means F right now is definitely going to have to be out. And if F is out, that means that H is going to have to be the treasury here. Now, from here, can we do much more? It doesn't seem like it because, I mean, if H is the councillor, then we would have consequences, but that's not true, which means that this is not applicable. K can still shuffle between the mayor or out, so that's also a little bit flexible. So it looks like we can't do as much at the moment. The question itself asks, which of the following now must be true? Well, let's take a look. A, J is the other nominee. Well, we don't necessarily know that. L is the other nominee for councillor. Same thing, we don't know where L goes at the moment. Next, K is the nominee for mayor. It could, but we don't necessarily know that. F is the nominee for treasurer. That's actually false because currently F is out. E, H is the nominee for treasurer, which he absolutely is. Best answer choice to question number 13 then is E. Next. Now, 14, 15 are global. We'll come back to these in a moment. Let's take a look at number 16. So number 16 says, if K is one of the nominees, well, let's take a look. If K is one of the nominees, first of all, we know that his only option is to be a mayor, so we can lock him in place over there. Now, if that were the case, does that do anything further? I mean, first of all, it's worth noting, it's consistent with both of our exhaustions, right? K could be the mayor in both cases. And, well, this rule actually does get applied. So we know that if J is not the mayor, which currently J is not the mayor, we actually do know that H could not be a councillor. So at the very least, I guess we can say H is not a councillor. Seems like it's pretty open still, though, because H could still be in the treasury or out. So it doesn't seem like we can do much at this point. The question, though, you'll notice at this point really only just asks who cannot be a councillor, and I guess we've already answered that question. H at the moment certainly cannot be a councillor. So the best answer for question number 16 then is C. Next, number 17 is a modifier, so we'll come back to that one in a moment. Let's take a look at the global questions that we have. Number 14 says, which of the following pairs could be the two nominees for councillor? So who could be the two people under the councillor position? Well, I guess let's see what we can do with what we have. Answer choice A, could F and G both be councillors? Well, no, that definitely can't happen because we know that F and G cannot both be nominated. So answer choice A gets disqualified. Next, could F and J both be the councillors? Well, looking at our exhaustions, I mean, in this scenario, it wouldn't work because F is in the treasury, but here, could we have both F and J be councillors? I mean, it seems like it would be plausible, at least it doesn't seem to break anything. G obviously would have to be the one who was out, but otherwise that seems okay. Let's hold on to that one for the time being. Answer choice C. Could G and H both be councillors? Well, in this scenario, obviously it wouldn't work because H is a treasurer, but then in this scenario it also wouldn't work because G has to be out. The thing is, if G and H hypothetically were both councillors, then F would be stuck in the treasury and that would break. Which is why it doesn't really work with either of our scenarios. So answer choice C then gets disqualified. Next, answer choice D, H and J. Could H and J both be councillors? Well, no, because in the one scenario here, perhaps, where H and J might both go into the councillor position, the thing is, if H was a councillor, then J would have to go to the mayor, which means that that wouldn't work. We can get disqualified. Answer choice D. Next, K and L. Could K and L both be councillors? Well, no, we know that K can never be a councillor, so that gets disqualified. Best answer to number 14 is B. Next. Number 15, the selection of nominees in the offices for which they run is completely determined if which of the following is not one of the nominees. So basically, who would lock the game if they were out? Well, we can take a bit of a shortcut because we know that in this scenario, in this exhaustive scenario, G was out and it certainly did not lock the game. And in this scenario, F was out and it did not lock the game, which means that answer choices A and B get disqualified. Now, just to be clear, in this scenario, you'll notice that J happens to be out and the game is locked. But you want to be cautious here. That doesn't mean that J being out would have actually locked the game. It could have been locked for some other reason, right? Because we had other kind of restrictions that we put into play in that scenario. This kind of, the fact that this game is resolved or the scenario is resolved does not have to be because J was there. It could just be incidental that J was out. So we still have to kind of keep an open mind regarding the rest of the answer choices. Let's take a look at what we have. We have C, D, and E remaining. Answer choice C, H. Now, if H was out, would that resolve the game? Well, if we look at our exhaustive sets, we know that if H is out, that would certainly force us into the top scenario here because in this scenario, H is definitely in. Now, in this scenario, if H is out, it would actually have locked out the other out position. So that's pretty good. In fact, actually, that means now that K cannot be in the counselor and he can't be out because that's locked. So K would have had to be the mayor. And that actually seems like it would lock the game. Just to make sure, let's kind of run that through. If H is out, it effectively forces us into the top scenario where F is the treasurer and G is the one who is out, which means F goes here and then G goes there. Now from there, as we said, K cannot be a counselor, which effectively means that K is going to have to be a mayor at the moment. And that's just, well, that's done because everybody else now has to be a counselor, and that would be both J and L. And we're not really breaking any rules, so this seems like a viable answer. The best answer to question number 15 is C. Having H on the outside would have locked the game. Next, question number 17. Which of the following, if substituted for the condition that K cannot be a nominee for counselor, would have the same impact on the game? So essentially, we're trying to replace this rule over here. And we've actually kind of taken a bit of liberty in terms of what that rule actually said. So rather than the idea that K cannot be a counselor, we've simplified that to say that K has to be either the mayor or out. But effectively, yeah, this is the rule that we want to maintain. Let's take a look. Answer choice A. The nominee for mayor must be either J or K. Now remember, just to kind of recap, a good answer choice for this kind of question is going to be something that always had to be true and something that would guarantee that this result would be maintained. Now, I guess one question here is it true that either J or K would have had to be the mayor? I mean, arguably speaking, couldn't other people have, I mean, we haven't seen other people be the mayor, but it doesn't seem like they couldn't be mayors. So that already should kind of strike you as a bit odd. But there's a bigger issue here. The thing is, by saying that either J or K has to be a mayor, does that really stop K from being a counselor? Well, no, because that would seem like it would leave open the possibility that J could be the mayor and then K could do whatever it wants, at which point it wouldn't stop K from being in the counselor position. So this doesn't seem like it would actually get the job done. This wouldn't guarantee that K is going to either be the mayor or alternatively have to be out. Now, you might want to leave this answer choice open just because we haven't quite proven that, but at the same time, there doesn't seem to be any merit to this. It doesn't seem like it would necessarily lock down the K into the counselor position, outside of the counselor position. It seems like it would leave open the possibility that the K could still be a counselor. Answer choice B, the nominees for counselor must include J or L or both. Well, first of all, is that true that we had to have one of J or L in the counselor position? I mean, maybe, because between the elements that we have, one of G or F had to always be out, and we know that one of F or H always has to be the treasury. So did we have to have one of J or L be the counselor, given that K also could never be the counselor? Maybe. But at the same time, the other question should be, if we say that the counselor has to include one of J or L, would that stop the K from being a counselor? And that's really the more important question right now. It seems like that might have to be true, but it just doesn't seem like it would actually have an impact. In other words, simply by saying that one of J or L has to be in the counselor position, that seems like it would leave wide open the possibility that K could still be one of the counselors. It doesn't seem to stop K from being in the counselor position. Again, you might want to leave this answer choice open just because we haven't really proven that to be a wrong answer choice. But again, it doesn't seem to be like something that would actually force K to stay outside of the counselor position. And remember, first pass, you should always take a bit of a more cursory look. If it doesn't seem like an answer choice has a lot of merit to it, you can always leave it open and come back to it later, if anything. Answer choice C. If F is not one of the nominees, then K cannot be a nominee either. So, for one, is that true that if F was not a nominee, then K could not be a nominee? Again, this doesn't seem like it has to be true because, I mean, in this scenario, for example, F was out, and then couldn't K still have gone into the mayor position? That still seems like it could have worked. And moreover, this only tells us what happens if F is out, right? If F is in, this doesn't tell us what happens, and that would still leave open the possibility that K could be a counselor in that scenario. So this doesn't seem like it had to be true, nor does it seem like it has the impact that we need it to. So again, we haven't proven that false, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like there's any merit to the answer. Answer choice D. If H is a nominee for counselor, then K cannot be one of the nominees. So if H is in the counselor position, is it true that K had to be out? Actually, technically, it did have to be true because if H was a counselor, then J would have had to be the mayor, in which case that would have forced the K to be out. So this always had to be true. But then there's the other question. Would this actually make sure that K is not a counselor? Would it necessarily mean that K has to be either the mayor or out? And no, because this answer choice only tells you what happens if H is a counselor. But what if H wasn't a counselor? What if H, for example, was a treasurer? This answer choice says nothing about that situation, in which case couldn't then K easily still be a counselor? Yeah, the thing is, this answer choice only tells you what happens if H happens to be the counselor. It doesn't tell you what happens if he's not, in which case this wouldn't guarantee that K will never be a counselor. So answer choice D, again, it doesn't seem like we have a firm proof that this is not the right answer choice, but it doesn't seem like it would actually have the impact that we needed to. So we'll leave it open if anything, but it doesn't seem like a viable answer. E. If K is a nominee, then K has to be a mayor. And this pretty much nails it. In fact, this is our, I guess, deduction in a sense, that K could never be a counselor meant that either he's going to be the mayor or he's going to be out. Or in other words, that if he is a nominee, then K would be the mayor. This guarantees that he'll never be a counselor, and it always had to be true. So answer choice E then is a perfect answer choice. Just to kind of recap how we approach this, a lot of answer choices would take time to prove that they're not going to do what you want them to do, but they also don't seem like they would have merit. They don't seem like they actually have the impact that you need them to. So on your first pass, you really shouldn't be overly, overzealous in terms of proving every single answer choice right or wrong. First pass should always be a little bit more cursory. You look for things that seem like they might be promising, and if answer choices don't seem like they might be promising, you can always leave them open. Don't disqualify them just yet, but look for kind of a sure thing first.